Hello folks, and welcome to yet another retro episode of the Audiophile Man, and I'm here to review not one but two products, this time from the UK outfit Fel, and we have the amplifier, the Fel Amp, and a CD player, the Fel Disc. I'm going to dwell a little bit on the prices here before I move on and talk about the boxes themselves, because this might just sway you in terms of, well, whether you buy or whether you don't. To begin with, the Fel CD player, the Fel Disc, retails as £499. The Fel integrated amplifier, it is integrated, called the Fel Amp, is priced at £599. There is a bundle deal, and that is £999. Both of these boxes and the deals can only be sourced from the UK retailer TYSON. But what about the actual boxes themselves, the CD player, the disc, and the integrated amplifier, the amp? Well, I couldn't help but laugh at the sheer impudence of Fel. I powered up both the new amplifier and the new CD player. The lights came up and I thought, name. In terms of design signature and the light show, there is a big nod here from Fel towards the classic olive green look from name. But more so, of course. So, name in extremis, the name of your dreams, possibly name gone Hollywood. The Fel presentation is naughty. It's rather cheeky, but it's also very clever because for Fel, it plugs into one of the largest industries on the planet today, nostalgia. In addition, it hints at the British construction of these boxes, which have been conceived, designed, and built right down to the circuit board level in the UK. Just looking at these boxes, finished in black, puts a smile on my face. So, a good start then. As I mentioned earlier on, exclusively supplied by the long-standing, very respected British retailer TYSON, and I'll put some links below to that particular retailer. The Fel amplifier is a full-width yet rather slim device, spanning 440mm by 300 by 75. Yet it weighs a robust 6 kilograms. Inside are Class D electronics, but there's a tweak here because they're powered by a rather hefty and relatively expensive for an amp in this price class toroidal transformer, which looks to improve on the basic switching model. Expect to find 49, that's right, 49 watts into 8 ohms here, which sounds very English, very eccentric, although I would have much preferred 47 3/4. All of that sits next to the ES9018 K2M DAC. You also get Bluetooth 5.0, which I found quick to pair with my various devices and very easy to use. Other features include a built-in headphone amplifier, a built-in phono amplifier, and that supports moving magnet. I have to say, I liked the symmetrical rotary style control layout. The right actually just controls the power. The left rotary knob controls volume with a circular volume light ladder which surrounds it. Inputs are accessible via labelled and terribly right-angled and rather retro touch buttons on the chassis, or via the small yet neat and responsive remote control. Gotta say, I loved the interface, which is clearly aimed at, and get this, people looking to use an amplifier. Too many other hi-fi interfaces out there are more interested in winning the Turner Prize. The same can be said of the CD player, which sports a power button, a slim window oozing a swamp green light that connects on some primeval level to a Hammer House of Horror B-movie, in a good way, showing essential information and basic CD controls, plus 3 buttons adding more to the basics. Frankly, this is what I want from a CD player, so I am happy. The slot-based transport will trigger complaints from some, but during the review I found no issues at all. Again, inside this box we have an ES9018 K2M DAC chip, and that's contained within the same basic chassis as seen in the amplifier, although the CD player, as you might expect, is rather lighter, in this case 4.6 kilograms. You'll find the usual outputs around the back, including coax and optical connections, and an IEC power socket. Oh, how do these boxes sound? Well, let's have a little listen. To begin, I tackled the CD player. Question: how does the Fel CD player compare to a popular and similarly priced CD transport and separate DAC combo, like, oh, I don't know, the Audiolab 6000 CDT hooked up to an original Topping E30? I played the track I Can't Read from the David Bowie 1999 album Tin Machine. A useful test track, this one, mixing all-out rock with fine cymbal work, a nicely distributed soundstage, isolated bass guitar, crisp percussion, guitar distortion, Bowie doing Bowie vocal stretches, and there's a slight peak limiting edge because, well, it's the 90s. In performance terms, well, typical of all separate Transport DAC versus the all-in-one integrated CD player tests I've done in the past, and I've done a fair few. The Fel doesn't push the basic noise floor down as far as the separate Transport DAC combo. That is no surprise. In fact, it was completely expected. The Audiolab topping pairing being physically separate is important on that respect. Allied to that, of course, the Fel's soundstage wasn't quite as broad. Even so, the Fel CD player did surprise me. This Bowie album is compressed, as I say, in true 90s style, but the Fel softens the drum spikes just enough to make percussion sound positively civilized. And while reverb tails might not travel quite as far, the treble-infused cymbal taps were just as delicate and fragile from the Fel. The instrumental separation was also impressive. Each instrument had plenty of space to perform within, so shy details were easily discernible. And of course, before I move on, just quickly, there are other reasons to buy an integrated CD player over a Transport and DAC. For example, an integrated occupies less footprint. You don't have to buy as many external cables because you've got to connect separate boxes, of course. You don't have to do that with the Fel. You only have to buy one box. It's quicker to set up and all that jazz. Moving on now, I then swapped my reference, but this time for another integrated design. In this case, a relatively expensive Leema Elements integrated, priced at a whopping £1,500. I just wanted to see if the Fel could even keep up. And yes, because of that price point, the noise floor was lower from the Leema, with the upper mids offering greater extension in terms of delivery detail. But in many ways, the sound from the Fel was similarly easy on the ear. It was certainly just as fun to listen to. Yes, the Fel is around a third of the price of the Leema, but I was hearing most of the treble and most of the mid-range detail here, while the bass just softened enough to tame this compressed CD. I then moved on to a more tonally balanced CD from Thomas Dolby and the track Oceania, and that provided proof that the Fel is a CD player without any obvious vices. For the price, this is just an easy CD player to listen to, while offering detail, information, delicacy when required, plus bass power when needed. I have to say, I could easily live with the Fel CD player. No problem at all. So much for the CD player. How about the Fel amplifier? Well, I reverted back to my Audiolab CD transport and retained Thomas Dolby for the first sound test with the Fel amplifier, and I brought in my Audiolab 6000A and the Advanced Paris XI75 amplifiers as references. If anything, I found the Fel amplifier offered slightly more defined upper mids than the 6000A, although those mids are possibly a touch more balanced on the Audiolab. Even so, the upper mid-range detail from the Fel was impressive, highlighting some of the low-key acoustic guitar picking on the Dolby track. In addition, the Fel doesn't quite have as much bass weight as the XI75, but it's possibly better integrated into the mix. I then hooked my rather expensive benchmark DAC to my 6000 CDT and once more turned to Bowie's Tin Machine, and was pleased to hear that the Fel had the headroom to cater for the enhanced sonics from the benchmark, converting the smooth mids, the snappy yet firm bass, and focused soundstage, but without any compression issues heard earlier. Next, I turned to the built-in headphone amplifier, and I plugged in a pair of Sennheiser HD650 headphones, classic designs. I did feel that the Fel sounded a little woolly through the headphone amp around the bass area, lacked a bit of clarity and a bit of transparency. The sound wasn't bad by any means, but it lacked the zip and the spacious mid-range of the amp in speaker mode. Similarly, Bluetooth is okay on the Fel. It works, it sounds fine, but never great, and that's down to the very basic and rather primitive SBC codec. That's all I could generate with my Astel & Kern CAN Alpha, playing Pink Moon via Nick Drake at 24-bit 96K. Next, I turned to the built-in Phono amplifier, and I played level 42's The Early Tapes on vinyl via my Audio-Technica LP5X. And this was much better. I really did love the Fel's internal Phono amplifier. Sure, the internal nature of the amplifier did restrict the upper mids just a tad. It constricted the soundstage a little bit, but for an internal model, this Phono amplifier performed very well indeed. Bouncy, weighty bass combined well with the detailed mids, and it had a creditable treble performance. And that's basically your double dual review of the Fel amplifier and Fel CD player, the disc and the amp. Let me give you a few final thoughts. I have some of those. I will then give you some pros and cons and a final, well, ratings, plural in this case. As you might expect, because neither box has any real vices and in general terms provides a detailed and informative presentation for the price, both the amp amplifier and the disc CD player from Fel, they work together very well indeed in the same hi-fi system and without any issues. In fact, both boxes would make an ideal core for a new hi-fi or as the heart of an upgrade project. And if you are going to go down the upgrade route, I would upgrade the Fel disc first, with that being the source, and then the amp afterwards, if cash is short. If you combine the price point from these two boxes, especially the bundle deals, and then you roll that up in the excellent sound quality from these two boxes and those wonderful nostalgic British hi-fi looks, I reckon other hi-fi manufacturers out there will look upon Fel and they'll be green with envy. And because of all that, and you can see how well it does in the pros and cons, I have no option but to give both of these boxes individually an award-winning rating. I'm going to give the CD player an 8 out of 10 and a groovy, and I'm also going to give the amplifier another 8 out of 10, another groovy. Congratulations to Fel. And that's your lot, folks. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this particular video. Down below, I'll put some links to Peter TYSON and all of the buy links and the bundle deals and all of that kind of good stuff. Have a peruse down there and check out some of the links. And while you're there, before you go, can you click on the like and subscribe buttons, please? Just helps this channel to move ever forward and obviously upward, as I'm doing here. Because that's where we're going. We're going just there. Just by Alpha Centauri. That's where this channel is heading, folks. In addition to that, there are links to my website, which has a whole heap of stuff you won't find here, and my Facebook group, which you are welcome to join, of course. I'll be back on... when will I be back? Friday with probably a music... or maybe even Saturday. Ain't sure. One of those days, probably with music alerts, I'm guessing. And I hope to have your company at that point. Until then, folks, bye-bye for now.